Object Management Group, or as you may know us as OMG. I'd like to welcome you to the Cloud Standards Customer Council, or CSCC webinar titled Highlights of OpenStack Icehouse and OpenStack Summit. The webinar will be presented by Brad Topol, IBM Distinguished Engineer, OpenStack, and Morgan Fainberg of Hewlett-Packard. Morgan is an open source software engineer and an active contributor to OpenStack. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the call. Please submit your questions in the chat box located on the bottom right of your screen, and I'll read through them at the end of the session. And with that, I'd like to turn the program off to Brad.
Okay, thank you, Peggy. So I'd like to start with a quote here on chart 2 from Forrester Research. OpenStack has crossed the threshold and will become another de facto infrastructure as a service standard before the end of the year, and OpenStack compatibility will be a must, not a nice to have. It's great to see the analysts seeing what some of us have seen and known was going to be coming for years, which is that OpenStack was just becoming a huge ecosystem and gaining tremendous momentum in the industry. If we go to the next chart. If we look at OpenStack's growth over just a couple of years, you look at starting in 2010, it was quite small. It started as basically a closed source with one or two sort of companies, if you will, contributing, and then as time went by, more folks came to the table and put a foundation in place and open governance and a level playing field for folks to contribute to this open source project. And as what you've seen here is just tremendous growth. Frankly, OpenStack is now the fastest growing open source project. It grows even faster than Linux, and a lot of factors here: good governance, lots and lots of sponsors and folks getting behind OpenStack. We have 100 new developers contributing every month. We've got fantastic unit testing and continuous integration testing. If you want to get a patch into OpenStack, it's going to run through 1,500 quality assurance integration tests, and they all have to pass before that patch is even allowed to merge. So there's tremendous focus on keeping high quality code and not having regression problems, and putting all of that together, you can see where we're at in Icehouse and the large amount of lines of code that are now in OpenStack. If we go to the next chart, again, I've been participating in OpenStack since October 2012, and my first summit that I attended was in Portland, and even since then, it just we started. I thought it was a part of an elite crowd of 300 active technical contributors. And now what you're seeing is over 2,000 active technical contributors, and then all that growth is also leading to growth of attendance into the OpenStack Summit. So you can see here just the huge number of companies and folks that are involved in supporting OpenStack. Again, 30% growth in attendance over previous summit. New attendees, right? New blood continues to show up from companies we didn't realize were interested in OpenStack, so this is a tremendous momentum around this open source community. If we start looking at the platform, just a little bit of background. Why are all these people coming to OpenStack? Why is this so interesting? This infrastructure as a service. Well, it really comes down to speed. It really comes down to, a company wants to start something, some type of software project. In the olden days, what they have to do? Well, you had to go get somebody to install and configure the database, and somebody to install and configure the application server, and then have somebody else go set up the network. And all of this would take weeks, months, et cetera, et cetera. When you start looking at providing a cloud infrastructure like OpenStack, those types of things get set up, deployed, configured much quicker. And so you're moving at the speed of the cloud means you're provisioning resources so people can get their job done, write their software on top, and they're able to start doing this in minutes as opposed to months. I mean, it's a huge value proposition, and everybody's seeing this. If we go look at a very, very high level of the OpenStack Cloud platform, what you see is it provides you the notion of virtualized resources, compute resources, provides you virtualized networking, so you can carve up your network and give it to different, give it as pieces of resources to different projects, and then virtualized storage, again, being able to provide that as well. Also has some shared services for things like, security and identity and et cetera. If we go to the next chart, just a little sort of behind the curtains on the OpenStack ecosystem. OpenStack scope continues to grow, and it does it through very good governance. There is a technical committee that is sort of a group of folks with a lot of experience in this space that are technical, technical type folks that keep track of the ecosystem and keep looking to see what's getting hot, what's getting more mature, and what goes, gets closer to being part of the OpenStack integrated release. And so, you have different projects in the OpenStack ecosystem, and some of them start to really tie in well with the core and the integrate, the core software, and those become these incubated projects. And so they kind of go through this testing process of incubating with the potential to be added and graduated to the integrated release. And you'll see that certain projects we do 2 releases a year in OpenStack, and every so often as they become more mature, they get added into the integrated release. So if we go to the next chart, again, the overall ecosystem that many people don't see, it's on a site. Typically, this stuff is stored on something called OpenStack StackForge, but lots of projects that folks have found very interesting that will ideally benefit the OpenStack integrated release. Large number of projects listed here. Some are like Pecan, which are better ways to do web services. Some are like Kite, which involve doing some key management. Some are like Docker, which is sort of lightweight containers. So lots of things going on in the ecosystem, and lots of projects trying to get incubated. And then you have the integrated release, which has all your staples. You've got your compute, object storage, you've got block storage, networking, your image service, identity service. You've got a dashboard, which is getting a lot of momentum these days. Orchestration, being able to orchestrate your cloud and build your stacks. And not too long in the distant past, we've added metering and monitoring, and they call it telemetry. And now database as a service is something new that's been added. So lots of stuff going, and the ecosystem gets bigger. Again, just a cleaner version of this chart on chart 10. You can see that a couple things are getting closer. There's been a lot of work on bare metal, a lot of work on sort of messaging interface, and starting to do data processing. So those are the next candidates for becoming integrated. On the right, of course, you can see the ones that I mentioned that are already there. So we're going to start diving into the OpenStack Icehouse details, and at this point, I'm going to hand off to my good friend Morgan Fainberg from Hewlett-Packard, who is also an active technical contributor and has been been contributing to OpenStack for a very, very long time, and so he's going to take us through some of the details.
Oh, thank you very much, Brad.
Yep, and just tell me next chart when you want me to move on, Morgan.
Sure. Well, next chart.
Okay.
So with the Icehouse release, we had some significant improvements and changes that came through. A lot of them were operator-driven, specifically looking at the maturity and updates, addressing the issues the operators specifically have been looking to solve with using OpenStack and making it a better platform, which includes better testing, better upgrade management, better reliability across services, as Brad pointed out, the incubation process, so that you have a clear path to getting a absolutely new service all the way through up into the integrated release. A lot of work on efficiency, specifically scaling out around the storage, block storage, both object and block storage, and then the data layers for the large deployments, and generally speaking, a much cleaner and reliable process for booting up instances and making sure that the APIs are consistent. Okay, next, let's go to the next chart here. The users of OpenStack absolutely are the voice that shapes what we're doing, how we're approaching things. We've got all the people contributing both code and looking to help solve bugs, looking at the real-world use cases, making sure that we have a view of what the day-to-day needs of our operators and deployers are, not just working on what sounds great to us. A lot of businesses are adopting OpenStack and applying their needs and their changes to the ecosystem here, making sure that we get I'm sorry, one second. I apologize for that. Making sure that OpenStack is headed the right direction here, and we've seen a very large improvement on testing reliability with the inclusion of the third-party drivers, all receiving full testing capabilities with the OpenStack CI project. The infrastructure team has provided that. Let's go to the next slide. So as you can see here, we've got a chart that shows the requests from users and what we have delivered with Icehouse. Big theme here was the upgrades without downtime, which we've got now rolling upgrades with limited to no user impact across specifically around the workloads that the users have put onto the OpenStack platform. We've got consistent experience across the drivers. Brad outlined that we have a significant amount of testing for any patch that goes in. This includes up to the 53 external continuous integration systems and making sure that we've got full compatibility, all changes coming in. And we had a demand for federated and single ID for a cloud using your corporate infrastructure, Active Directory, that type of stuff. And the identity service now allows full access via this federated identity, leveraging SAML and that type of technology to provide identity to your OpenStack platform. And again, we've got, there was demand for consistency when booting up instances, for making sure network and compute was the same, whether you're using the older Nova network or the newer Neutron. You get the same kind of functionality and same kind of consistency and reliability between them. Okay, let's go to the next slide. As you can see, and as Brad outlined, we have significant developer growth. We've had a huge increase since the Havana release. We've had a lot of features added, up to 350, with a very large focus on testing, maturity, stability. There have been many bugs fixed. It's a big number of bugs, with 2,902 bugs fixed in that release. I'm very proud to say that we've made the platform significantly better. And we have a lot of very strong companies providing fixes, updates, and real-world use, specifically around contributing code to OpenStack. The dashboard has had significant work done for translations. We've got translations across all of the OpenStack platform, covering 16 languages and nearly 700,000 words. And then finally, again, we've got all these third-party CI systems now working within the Icehouse cycle. This includes testing for the different hypervisors, the different block storage devices, and it'll cover anything from VMware to EMC and Ceph, that type of stuff there. And all of these CI systems are providing feedback for every single patch that for the projects that affects them. Let's go to the next chart. So we've got a couple of new features. We'll cover them by category. So, as stated, we have improved upgrade support, rolling upgrades. This means that when you need to upgrade your compute service, your users don't have to see an outage. This is a great feature, and our operators and deployers have been very, very happy to see that. For testing, as Brad said, we have 15,000 different tests that everything goes through. All the third-party drivers that have been included in Tree are absolutely fully tested, and we now do full upgrade testing from release to release for each and every contribution. We've had a few other minor, well, not so minor, updates that are significant to our users, and that includes performance to the scheduler, which is used for determining which hypervisor any given workload needs to go to, the process of booting up instances across the entire platform, flexible, the API has been made more flexible, better ways of targeting different hypervisor, different machines based upon the user's workload and requirements, and significant improvemements on access to the data layer, whether that's object storage or the Cinder block storage. Next slide, please. So, object storage has seen a update for discoverability, allowing you to ask for a given object from any number of nodes instead of having to know where to ask from. You've seen a significant improvement in replication process, providing better performance across replication, and expect to see significant storage policy features coming in Juno. For block storage, we've delivered a few key capabilities that should benefit the whole community. We've enabled volume retyping, which allows volume type to be changed from one type to another, and volumes can be migrated to new backends that are capable of supporting the new volume types. We also added the ability to manage and unmanage volumes. Some of the key benefits of these features are that they enable admins to move volumes between the varying different backends. And with tiered storage environments, that is a very large win. Again, we've had significant improvement in testing with CI. We've got all of our storage vendors very, very happy to provide feedback on each of the patches, and we've had significant scalability improvements on both the API side and the built-in storage drivers. Let's go to the next chart. Networking, this would be the Neutron project, and we've seen improvement with integration with compute. That's both for provisioning and updating networking when modifying your instances. And we've seen an improvement on consistency for both creation and for updates and teardown. We have, again, same as with the block storage, we have better testing, and we have full cross-service testing. And the third parties, again, are contributing significantly with the OpenStack third-party CI system. We're still working to get full feature parity with an open network here. We've had a huge amount of progress on that, and it is very close. both of the networking options, Nova Network and Neutron, are available and will remain available for the foreseeable future here. But we're definitely looking to see Neutron continue to see improvements and finally and take over as the de facto for all the deployments. Let's go to the next chart, please. The identity service has added the federated authentication. That's with mod Shibboleth. It's Apache module. It allows us to leverage SAML and other such means of communication to get identity from your corporate infrastructure, such as Active Directory. Orchestration. Brad, I'm going to turn over to you for this for the next couple ones here.
Sure. Orchestration in OpenStack is done by the heat component, and what's been really interesting here is there's a standard out there called Tosca for portable workload orchestration, and it's something that really resonates with customers to have the ability to do their orchestration in sort of this standard-based approach. And we've seen a lot of work going on to align what was available in Heat and with its hot templates with what is provided in Tosca. And what we're doing in orchestration is essentially there were a lot of options out there, and this type of thing enables OpenStack to have not a fractured ecosystem, but instead to bring all those ecosystems into a big ecosystem. And so, if you write your orchestration in native hot provided by Heat, that's fine. Or if you're a company and you've already embraced Tosca, then we have that huge ecosystem. We're able to bring those two ecosystems together. And that's, you'll see that going forward. Even in the next release, Heat is adding even more features that allow its orchestration capabilities to better match what Tosca defines. On the telemetry side, one of the key things that falls under this category is the notion of standard auditing support. If you look at cloud environments, being able to show compliance with all kinds of regulatory requirements that have to be met, it may not be the most exciting piece, but the need for standardized auditing is huge, and there is a standard out there, the CADF standard for Cloud Audit Data Federation, as part of the previous release, and even in the upcoming release, you're seeing the new CADF auditing capability make its way throughout all of OpenStack, and the benefit of that is for customers. When they start doing hybrid clouds, when they want to perhaps move from one OpenStack vendor to another OpenStack vendor, because we have standardized auditing support, they don't have to change their tools. The standard normative events that are generated for auditing and keeping track of what happened where will all work, whether they change different environments or they start doing hybrid cloud. So a lot of work there in telemetry. Obviously, the dashboard, it was very interesting with the dashboard. It's become so extensible that, and they've been pushing for better performance, that you're really seeing folks that the customers are expecting to see the dashboard there. So, 2 years in the past, a lot of vendors were providing their own dashboard. Now you're seeing a model where, no, customers want to see that standard OpenStack dashboard, but since it's so extensible, the vendors can then add their own components to the dashboard for fancy things. You might see some integration with Cloud Foundry, for example, or something like that, or whatever else. So a lot of work going on there, in addition to the improvements of a lot more language support as well. And finally, a new hot topic, database services. Providing database as a service. There's a new project. It's called Trove, and in fact, around August 19th up in Boston, there's going to be a one full day sponsored summit on Trove, getting a lot of excitement and momentum there. So that database as a service capability, many of the vendors find very, very useful. And if we go to the next chart, I'm going to hand back over to Morgan.
Just with the Juno release coming up very shortly here, we'll have October in 2014. We'll have this release come out, and you're going to see significant improvements across the board, lots of exciting stuff going on. But the projects to keep a very close eye on would be the bare metal. It's ironic. You've seen probably some of the news recently with a variety of people deploying with it. Data processing, Sahara project. It's going to be big data. It provides a very clean interface to working with OpenStack and deploying your big data projects and being able to consume that data in an OpenStack environment. And then messaging, the Marconi project here, and that's your queued messaging, provides a simple queuing service, that type of stuff, and communication across your applications from central source messaging as a service. But keep your eyes on those ones. They're going to be seeing some you're going to see significant improvement with them. Hopefully we're going to see those move into the integrated release in the near future. Let's go to the next chart. And we've got a lot of planned contributions here for Juno, and everything from every facet and every aspect of OpenStack. And I'll just touch on a couple of the key pieces here, and then which specifically around around compute. We've got improvements for the backing database coming down the line. We've got significant improvements on giving you the better capabilities to turn all the little knobs and dials and fine-grained support across all of the Nova APIs, and getting full input validation on the V2 API, the current active Nova API, meaning that there's no question of if the data you sent through the API is going to be correct or not. We get immediate feedback on that versus waiting for the service to tell you there was an error. Authentication security, this would be the Keystone or Identity project. We're seeing better support for auditing across the Federation. You get better ideas of who's using the cloud in which way, specifically when it comes to authentication. We're seeing Keystone to Keystone Federation, meaning you're going to have the ability to have one OpenStack cloud provide identity to another OpenStack cloud. It allows for better hybrid cloud usage, or even multiple private clouds all meshed together in a very clean and efficient manner. And we're improving all of the extension discoverability. Keystone works from the standpoint of a lot of different pieces that can be optionally turned on and off. We want to be able to make it so that you can determine what is available, what's used there, and that's interesting from, again, integration from with your corporate environment and delegation of abilities. And couples with all that, you'll see improvements with Cloud Foundry and OpenStack integrated authentication, and I think that's particularly cool because it provides a solid PaaS foundation for using all the same tools that you're already familiar with OpenStack. The dashboard, this will be Horizon, is seeing a lot of movement to make it really cool, a little bit more flexible. Not that it isn't flexible now. Moving towards a jQuery and AngularJS type model, which allows for far more pluggability, which is exciting, and a lot of the hover over and sorting, that type of stuff that you've come to expect from any solid Web 2.0 application. You want to see that built in, make that available to all of the vendors, all of your deployments. And then we have the storage systems. We have both Cinder and Swift, Cinder being the block storage, Swift being your object storage. And you'll see improved profiling. Again, same as with Nova, you'll see increased backing database support, including DB2. better replication support across different volumes, full internationalization support for Cinder, among many other things that are not covered here. And I'll go ahead and turn over to Brad to cover the other interesting pieces here that...
Sure. Thank you, Morgan. Again, with orchestration, you're going to see a lot more alignment between Heat and Tosca. So, one of the big differences there is when Tosca does its workload orchestration, it sort of had key interfaces for doing things like, when it's, you run this script when it's time to configure the software, you run this another script when it's time to update the software, and then, scripts for starting and stopping. So it had a little more flexibility of supporting and orchestrating those type of software lifecycle operations. You're going to see that, where Heat and Hot was, it typically had one big script for that stuff and just kind of ran the one script, and now it's starting to pick up more of those lifecycle operations capabilities as well. So it's going to line up a lot better with Tosca, and between the two of them, we're going to keep those two ecosystems together. Again, we're looking at increased CADF, the Cloud Data Federation. We're going to make sure we handle the new stuff coming around with the Keystone to Keystone Federation. You're really going to want to understand who got authenticated from which identity provider. So you'll see that the auditing will be expanded to handle those types of things. And internationalization, again, very important to OpenStack, and they've actually noticed that there were a few bugs that, hey, believe it or not, when you change from this language to that language, these weren't, hey, the phrases were wrong, but there were actually some minor bugs that could pop up for certain reasons. And so they're actually looking at adding actual test cases to our quality assurance program, Tempest, so that, we will make sure those don't pop up again. That's sort of the philosophy of OpenStack. And when a bug pops up, you want to understand, well, how did it get in, and what unit test or what quality assurance test needs to be added so that bug is squashed and doesn't, similar bugs don't find their way back in. And then kind of an interesting story on the new platform support for internationalization. The internationalization support that we were using actually went from open source to closed source, and we are all open source. So fortunately, there's another platform out there that is truly open source, and so sort of what's in our DNA is we're actually going to move from the closed source one to the open source one as they kick the tires on it, make sure it meets all the needs, and then have that as their globalization platform that's used. The model of crowdsourcing for translating OpenStack is really amazing. In traditional software development, you typically bring in translators once or twice a year, and either you get your stuff translated at those two discrete intervals, or you wait till the next one. In OpenStack, there's this model of when something needs translated, an event gets triggered and sent to the translation folks, and they do crowdsourcing with, sort of who are their core translators. And so you have this very robust model of translation that occurs throughout the year, not just at, two discrete points. I believe that is the end of our presentation. All right. So we're ready to open it up for questions, Peggy.
Great. Yeah, now there's a couple questions. You may have already answered them. It looks like you probably have, but you may want to add something. Someone has asked, when is the next OpenStack Summit scheduled, both in the U.S. and abroad?
What a great question.
Yeah.
I'm going to take that one because it's real easy for me to remember, because it is going to happen when my son's birthday is there, and that's going to be 2 years in a row. So I going to have to figure that one out and get him something nice. But the next one is sort of first week of November, and it's going to be in Paris. OpenStack does 2 releases a year, 2 summits a year, typically one summit somewhere in North America, usually the U.S., and then one summit somewhere else. Last year it was Hong Kong. This year it's going to be Paris. And we won't know, I've heard rumors that they're actually going to switch things up and do the one outside of the Americas now in the spring as opposed to the fall. So you may see us, go to Paris, and then maybe on the next one, which they won't announce until Paris, go somewhere else that's also out of the States. And then for the next November conference, on the following year, 2015, that one will be back in the Americas.
Great. Okay, thank you. Then the next question is, and again, I know you've addressed this, you may want to add something. Are you seeing OpenStack growth outside of the U.S.?
Oh, most certainly. Places like China have, they've just, they're like one of the biggest places of huge contributors to OpenStack. So, frankly, we have developers from all over the world. Morgan and I, we were at a hackathon just a couple weeks ago, sort of our mid-cycle meetups, and we had folks from Ericsson that were from Finland, I believe. So you're seeing folks in Germany, folks all over are in Asia, but pretty much all over are starting to contribute to OpenStack. I don't know, Morgan, if you wanted to add to that.
The only thing that I can add is that that I totally agree. I've seen it everywhere, everything from South Korea to China, and to add to hackathon, we also had a few folks. We had a couple folks from CERN, so you see the adoption in Europe as well.
Switzerland.
Okay, great. Next question, and again, you probably addressed this, but if you wanted to add to what's the frequency of your OpenStack releases?
It's interesting. There's 2 official releases per year. Go ahead, Morgan. You want to take that one?
Sure. Well, we have 2 full integrated releases. That'd be the named releases, such as Icehouse or Juno, or the upcoming K release, which I think we'll have a name for in the next day or so. Those are released on those are released twice a year. However, within any given one of those development cycles, there are 3 other milestones that are released, and this is specific to the core services: Heat, Keystone, Nova, Cinder, Swift, Horizon, Solometer, those types of those services that you're all familiar with. And each of those milestones represents just a window development for have we got check in, make sure that we're on track, and you can play around with, work with. It may not be fully polished, but they're available, and I know people who keep very close operations to that.
Okay. Next question, is it a goal that new releases are compatible with older releases? That is, APIs are backward compatible. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
APIs or APLs, is it?
APIs.
APIs. I'll go ahead and take
APIs,
this one
good.
here.
Okay.
We work very, very hard to make sure that the REST APIs that you are working with stay backwards compatible. Part of the testing, that'd be your quality assurance testing there, Tempest, actually runs a full battery of tests, and if there are any cases where that contract is broken, where you have a disconnect or something that doesn't work as expected, there is a whole series of things that need to happen to make sure that we really do, in fact, want that change. I can count on one hand the number of times we've had that contract broken in the last, I want to say, 4 releases. It is very, very minor, and if it does change, it's the exception to the rule. We really do want these APIs to stay compatible, release to release to release. We may add new features, new functionality, but we don't want to break past functionality.
Great. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
and then just to add to that, the other piece that I thought was really interesting when I joined OpenStack was the database migration. So when you got a new release comes out and it's got to add new database tables or whatever, there's these whole systems in the different OpenStack projects where there's an upgrade downgrade option. So even at the database level, they're keeping things clean with regards to, clean upgrades, clean downgrades.
Great. Okay. Well, and you've just touched on this. The next question is, how can users actively participate, submit feedback and requirements to OpenStack?
There's a lot of great ways to do that. Obviously it is open source, and so there's a tremendous desire to have folks, if they are contributors, to find a way to try and, contribute a small bug fix or contribute a documentation fix. Those are typically really easy. It's a very interesting community where they use what's called Internet Relay Chat, which is, a well-known and established chatting mechanism, and they have these different channels. And so what happens is, and this is all on the OpenStack website, but in addition to mailing lists and being able to have mailing lists, you can essentially join and register on IRC and join the different channels, and you literally get to go talk in real time to, there's a Keystone channel, there's a Nova channel, and, that's what makes this accessible, that you may not know the Keystone crowd, for example, really well personally, but you can get on the Keystone channel and go ask your question and ask, hey, how do I get started, and these types of things. So, it is a meritocracy. It is, wanting to see folks either, ideally, get involved as much as they can. There's also a service they have called Ask OpenStack, I believe, where, if you just have support questions, there's a website, I believe, where you can just say Ask OpenStack and you can ask your operator questions. Morgan, I don't know if you wanted to add to that.
I can just say that we're all really friendly people. Come join us on IRC. There's also the mailing lists. They're available on the OpenStack website as well. From an operations question standpoint, there's an operator mailing list, there's a general use mailing list, and then if you're more interested in the development side, there's a dev mailing list. Feel free to come chat with us.
Super. Well, it looks like that's all the questions. Thank you so much for participating. Brad and, of course, Morgan, I appreciate your very interesting instructions for today. And just to let everyone know, there's a recording that will be going up on the CSCC website. It should be up by early next week. You need to visit www.cloud-council.org, and you can access the presentation there. And on a final note, I'd like to invite all of you to attend the upcoming CSCC special event, which is titled Preparing for the Post-IaaS Phase of Cloud Adoption. It's on June 18 in Austin, Texas. You can get details. Probably we should have everything up again by early next week. Go to the OMG site, which is omg.org, and click on the calendar or the meeting section, and you'll see OMG Technical Meeting in Austin, and it will also show you information about the CSCC Special Event Day. So thank you again for participating. Thank you, Morgan. Thank you to Brad. And hopefully we'll have this same group or even more join us for the next webinar. Thank you. Bye-bye now.